We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. This is John Harris. He's with the Tennessee Firearms Association, talking weapons, guns, what's happening here in the state and around the world and country with regard to weapon safety, ownership, and all of that. If you want to join in the conversation, you got a thought, give us a call. Let's take a call from Greg, who is waiting through the break. Hi, Greg.
Hi, good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Hey, good topic. I love it. I got a question and kind of a comment. You know, it's kind of obvious to all of us that believe in the Second Amendment that our government is doing everything that they're going to possibly can do to take that right away from us. No matter what we do, the media is there to always report shootings. They never report any time that anybody defends himself with a gun. So it's all one-sided. But this whole thing, I think that the NRA realizes that this whole issue about constitutional convention is going to be directly focused at trying to take our Second Amendment rights away and just destroying the Constitution. So everyone listens to the Phil Valentines and the journals and all that stuff. They're just being fooled. But my question is this, is about, when I got my concealed carry permit, is that when we get pulled over by a police officer, is it a law that we have to show them our permit? Or is that just what they prefer us to do? Because it's nobody's business but mine whether I carry a gun or not, whether I get pulled over by the police or not. If I get pulled over for a no seatbelt or a speeding ticket or whatever, the officers to just issue me a ticket for that. It's none of his business whether or not I have a gun or I don't have a gun. That's my own business. That's my personal. That's my privacy. That's my own business. It's no right for them to know whether I carry or not.
That's a good question. I mean, especially, he's not being stopped for something involving his weapon. So what do you do? I mean, what do you recommend? I think he's right. I don't know that he has to tell the officer, but at what point? I think my neighbor, Jimmy, once said, if he gets stopped, not that he gets stopped very often, but if he did, he would at least let the officer know, oh, by the way, sir, I have a weapon legally underneath the seat or something. But do you want to let them know that out of a courtesy? Is it required? What?
It's a little bit of a gray area in Tennessee. There's not a statute that specifically says on a traffic stop situation that there's an affirmative duty to disclose that you're a permit holder or that you're armed. Because now you don't even have to have a permit to be armed in a personal vehicle.
Okay.
However, there is a statute, Tennessee Code Annotated 3917-1351, that says if an officer is at an incident, and that's not clearly defined, so you view it more like they're investigating a crime as opposed to a traffic stop.
All right.
That officer has the authority under this statute to determine whether or not anybody is armed, and while they're on the scene investigating the incident, they have the authority to take the weapons from the people that are there, and then they have to return them at the end of the incident. But they have the authority under that statute for that. It's not clear, however, that statute really applies to the traffic stop.
Right.
Now, as a practical matter, what we tell people is, and this comes from talking to the way, we talk to a lot of instructors in law enforcement on how they're training the police officers and the highway patrol officers. And we actually had a highway patrol instructor come talk to the TFA chapter in Nashville not long ago about this. And it's clearly recommended, even though it's not affirmatively required, that you go ahead and tell the officer, as the officer's approaching your vehicle, keep your hands on the steering wheel. Don't be bouncing around looking for your stuff, because they don't know what you're looking for.
Right.
Let them get to the car, let them be in control. Just matter-of-factly, like it's no big deal, because it shouldn't be, say, I can present my driver's license, I am a handgun permit holder, I am armed, or I'm not armed. Let them know.
You would even say if you weren't armed.
Oh, yeah, I would tell them. I mean, either way, because I've run into that. I get pulled over occasionally, but particularly during hunting season. And, and at that point, I've usually got a lot of stuff in the car. But they're going to know when they run your driver's license, because in Tennessee, your handgun permit number is the same number in the same database as your driver's license. Okay. So the minute they run you, they're going to know. Okay. So you might as well just go ahead and tell them, yeah, I'm a permit holder, and I either am or am not armed. And it's, it's in the glove compartment, it's on my belt, it's in my purse, wherever it is. Okay. So that they don't worry about what you're going to do if you've made some disclosures.
Okay.
Now, what happens, though, if you're the person that doesn't have the permit but is now legally transporting under the 2014 law? My suggestion would be you just have to use your discretion at that point because you don't know how the officers are going to respond. But if the weapon is up near you, I mean, it's one thing if it's in the trunk because you're going hunting.
Yeah.
But if it's up near you, it's probably a safe bet to let that officer know that you're not a risk.
Meaning, would the officer see it? Or, because I'm just thinking, if it's a traffic stop, he's running, he's going to give you a ticket, it's never going to come. I mean, he's not going to see it. He's not going to know it's there.
Well, sometimes that's true, but it depends on how people carry. For example, there are people that carry in small of the back holsters, or they carry in their pocket and in their vehicles, because you can't, if you needed it, you couldn't get into your pocket very easily. They'll take it out and lay it on their console or their seat.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that when they transport, when they're in the vehicle, the weapon is literally just laying there.
Oh, okay. And I'm saying, yeah, certainly if the officer sees it or whatever under those circumstances. Also, if there's the unusual incident where maybe for whatever reason they decide to search your vehicle, not that you've done anything wrong and the gun's legal and they're going to search, maybe you let them know ahead of time, by the way, when you look under the seat, this is what you're going to find.
Right. I think if you just be upfront with the officer so that they're not worried about their safety. Yeah. When we had the instructors come talk to the group, the key issue was you want to make the officer as comfortable as possible that they're not in risk of harm. Yeah. Everything will go smooth if they're not afraid of you.
Absolutely. So in answer to his question then, it appears as though there's no mandate where you have to absolutely tell them, but it might be the prudent thing to do if you just want everything to go smoother, maybe, so someone's not worried or wondering about
you. Well,
and
the officers are trained to expect that there's guns in the cars. That's
they
why
probably assume there is.
Yeah, they do, because that's how they're trained to approach, and they stand back behind the post. And,
oh, sure.
And they're out of the...
Well, here's the other side of it. If you say you don't, and you're someone who is out to do bad, you may actually have one. They're not going to believe you anyway. So who knows? All right, let's go next to Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning. What's on your mind?
I got a question for John.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anyway, I was wondering, will I get in trouble for carrying my stun gun around? Do I have to have a license?
Tennessee does not have a licensure requirement for stun guns. So they're not considered.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it because I carry it around, but it's to deter anybody from coming up trying to rob me when I'm at the gas station.
Right. Yeah, Tennessee does not have a licensure requirement or a permitting requirement for stun guns, and also they're not considered lethal weapons. So. Yeah. The general rule is, you can carry them. Now, you may get stopped by an officer and ask why, because there's some out there like an air taser that looks like a pistol. There's some that are. There's some that don't. They're just, the little, look like remote control. Right. So it depends on what you're carrying and how you're carrying it, but there is no licensure or permitting requirement in Tennessee for those.
The same way with and I know it's different, but I mean mace or pepper spray, there's anyone,
no requirement.
Anyone can buy something like that.
Yeah. The only weapon other than a firearm that requires a permit under current Tennessee law is an expandable baton, and you have to have a certification and a training to carry one of those.
Okay. What do you think of a lot of these active shooter trainings we see? Now, we know law enforcement goes through this, and there's talk of active shooter trainings maybe being done in schools or on community college campuses or churches, places like that. I mean, what do you think of some of those? The idea of prepping. I'm not talking about law enforcement active training now. I'm talking about active training for the participants, be it students, teachers, a congregation.
Well, when I was in elementary school, we had active tornado training, let me put it that way, Sure. Run in the hallway and duck and all this kind of stuff. I think it's a good thing to prepare your population, whether it's a school, an elementary school, a high school, a college campus, a workplace, a church. It's a good idea to prepare your population for potential risk. So, addressing the issue, now, how much time you spend on it, I don't know, but addressing the issue of if there's an active shooter scenario, do we at least have the ushers trained in a church on how to get people to safe locations, get them out of the building, take them out in different sections. In a school, if we took a school situation where these teachers, having no training probably at all on what to do if they hear a gunfire, they just start locking their doors or running out into the halls. Some professional designed plan of what to do, just like if we had an earthquake or a tornado
or something like that, even. Yeah,
makes more sense than ignoring the potential risk and just having people with no training at all make a spur-of-the-moment decision when the crisis hits.
The fact is, that's the new cottage industry now.
Right.
It's happening, and a lot of people starting to do that. Listen, we got to take a break on that note. When we come back, we'll get into some of the new laws or perhaps proposals that will be looked at in the Tennessee legislature this next session. Take more of your calls, questions, or comments. 737-7587. Back more right after this.